Morning. Crazy. Hope everyone's doing well. Gotta stay away from that. There's an old Korean man over there. He's always busting my balls. He's like the only Korean that busts my balls all the time. Hope everyone's doing well. Going on a walk. Didn't have a chance to share the live. Never do with these walk and talks. Beautiful day. Beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous. You know, it's this first week of November, and it still feels fantastic. In fact, I probably could go without the jacket, but I've decided not to. Because you never know. Once that sun starts going down, it gets pretty chilly. And if there's a breeze at all, it can cut right through it. You know how that works. All right. Just had a couple buns. I had to get something in my stomach. So we're going to be talking about online orthodoxy. I just showered, so my hair's like all fuzzy. There we go. There we go. We're going to talk about online orthodoxy, which has issues, like any place. And talk about how some of my thoughts on it, controversies, things like that. Show you guys around the area a little bit. I've shown you guys a lot, actually. If people have followed my streams regularly, they've seen quite a bit. But talk about a couple things. So the business is doing well. We got a couple potential big contracts coming down the pipe, which are really great. 2 or 3 that I'm trying to negotiate. I won't name the clients because out of the respect for them, but we got 2 or 3 that are looking. They might be coming down the pipe. That means we might be able. If we get those 2 or 3, that means we'll be able to hire at least 2 part-time people, at least, and maybe, and it'll be full-time for all of the owners. So full-time for 3 people plus 2 part-time positions. And if we get 2 more clients after that, we will be able to hire on a significant amount of full-time people and just continue to just rock and roll. And I'll be doing a lot of the training for a lot of the technical things and whatnot, and I'll be managing people mostly. My technical skills are fine, but I'm more of a systems admin, and network engineer, server administrator kind of guy. I don't do a lot with coding, so the coding stuff is going to have to be done by other people, but I am decent at the rest. Oh, we did. Tactful. You should have gotten an email. If you didn't, I will forward it to you, but you should have gotten an email from my partner Tony with the template, so you should have it now. If you didn't get it, then just remind me and I'll forward it to you, because there might have just been he might have forgot to CC everybody. So but yeah, let me know if that is the case. But yeah, things are going well with the business. We're really close. We're really close to making this something where it's sustainable for me. Right now it's really hit or miss for me and the rest of us, because we only really have a handful of clients. We have some one-time clients that kind of gave us a good boost, but we really need those monthly clients to really push us over the edge, and get to make it much more sustainable. And then from there, we'll be able to really just expand and hire Orthodox people and assist other areas, and hopefully build something decent. Awesome. Yeah. So yeah, you feel free. You don't need to like keep us briefed on every single detail, but just let us know if there's just let us know what you got going on, and we will we'll keep you briefed on everything. So, oh my, oh, it's bright right now. I'm squinting. So yeah, it was a good day though. So anyways, it's been a good day. It's been got some things going on, got some things cooking. So that was good. Feeling good today. It's like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock here in Korea. 2 p.m. It's like 2 p.m. What time is it actually? Let me just check. It's 2:06. So it's 2 p.m. But yeah, we've had some good stuff going on. My wife is feeling much better, healthier. So we're kind of discussing when we want to start shooting for the second child, which is great. It's been, a long time, health and other issues going on that kind of kept us from being able to have more. But now we're kind of at that point where it's like, okay, granted, getting this income stuff figured out will give her a lot more comfort, but you guys know how that is. So I'm hoping for a boy. I really want a boy. I have a girl already, lovely, my little angel, my little princess. But I would like a boy because I am the sole person in my family line who can actually pass on my last name. So right now, my brother could, but he's not married, and right now we just do not know if that's even in the foreseeable future. So I love my last name. I think it's a great last name, and I would really like to pass it on. So I would like to have at least one boy, at least one, to pass on that legacy, you know what I mean? If I had a preference, the more the merrier. I'm not opposed to having one child or 10 children. It's more on the wife than me, more about God, right? So, I gotta run here, hold on. All right. So, I was told when I was becoming Orthodox that whenever you cross the street, you should cross yourself. And if it's a longer street, you should be doing it 3 times. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. And so that's what I do. It's a habit now. I do it all the time. Okay. So, that is that. Now, I had 2 sons very early, and then 2 more about 10 years later. 3 sons, 1 daughter. Last was about our girl, but man, done. Yeah, I feel ya. I had one really early, so I'm pretty young still. I'm 31. So, but I had my daughter when she's 9 now, so 22. I was 22. If I'm doing my math right, I might not be. So I had her when I was pretty young, and I was a young 22 when it happened too, because it was like a month after my birthday actually that we found out my daughter was pregnant, or my wife was pregnant, and then we had my daughter, 9-ish months later. So. Three sons, 1 daughter. Well, that is great, though. That is great. If God blesses me with more than I've always wanted 3 to 4, but I'm totally open to more or less. It's kind of not one of those. It's kind of one of the. Oh, it's beautiful out. So I'm walking towards this kind of nicer area. I'm going to show you guys around. I like to go walking in this area sometimes. It's beautiful. And so we're going to go walking around there, show you guys around that area, and see what you guys think. And also I've noticed I'm graying like crazy. Now, so I know I got my dad's genes. I'll have a full head of hair into my 60s, 70s, and 80s, most likely. But I'm gonna be gray as hell, because I have the same hairline as my dad. My dad's almost 60. He's getting close, and he's like 56 or something like that. But he has a full head of hair, but he is white. Like, if he didn't, he has this like shampoo that like slightly colors his hair, so he has more of like a grayish look. But if he just let it go, he would be totally white, all white hair. It's the same thing with my grandfather, and I guess I inherited those genes, because I'm starting to gray. And the thing is what my dad was the same way. Once he started graying, it was like, boom, it was done. He was done. It was like he started graying one day, and then within 5 or 6 years, he was like totally white. So, and like my dad was significantly gray by the time he. Very young looking face, same as me. When people look at my dad's face, they don't think he's 50. They don't think he's in his 50s. But the gray hair gives it away. And so he went gray very early. My aunt was even earlier, and the only reason she doesn't have gray hair is because she colors it, right? But same, like, actually it's that entire side of my family just grays early, very early. So but once it starts, it doesn't stop, guys. Once it starts, it doesn't stop. So I already can see some long pieces there, some pieces there. A little bit on the top of my head when you look at it in the right. What are you doing in Korea? Working? Yeah. Well, I'm living here, and I'm also working. Most of my work, though, is through my business, which is remote now. I used to work here in Korea, like, with an actual company. But a lot of government contracts were canceled, and it's just been rough to find new contracting work. So now I just do my best to make money on my business, to bring in some money. So I live here mostly because my wife and daughter are Korean. Also, just because it's a nice place to live. It's a great place to live. Beautiful people, beautiful culture, beautiful food. So now, the purpose of this live originally was to talk about Orthodox online sphere. Now, I'm one of those people that think that it's not as big of an issue as people always make it out to be. Like, oh man, there's just so much bad stuff on the Orthodox online sphere. Oh my gosh, it's just terrible. Why are all these people out there? Oh, this is terrible. Yeah, catechumens shouldn't be online. Inquirers shouldn't be online. I don't go to Nicholas Cathedral, actually. I'm not under the Greeks. I go to the Moscow Patriarchate. So maybe sometime I'll do a quiet little show of Orthos there. But I can make a trip to Nicholas Cathedral, but it's preferable from the standpoint of the Moscow Patriarchate for me not to go to the Greek churches or under the MP, or the EP, I should say. Just because of the strained relations right now with that. But I can still probably go. They're not going to lose. They're not, at the end of the day, what they care about is us partaking in the sacraments when possible. So the Moscow Patriarchate does not have a cathedral right now, though they are growing, and in the foreseeable future probably will need one. But in order to build one like that, it's going to require a generous it's going to require a generous donor. I can't say the word today. So, but yeah, but no, the online sphere. So it's always like people just like lose their mind about stuff way too easily. In my experience, they're always like, "Oh, I gotta show you this car. I see it all over the place. It's beautiful. I'll show you guys this car in a second." I want this car only because of how small it is, and like it would be perfect for just like commuting in this small area that I'm in. It would be totally worthless in all other cases, but I guarantee you, like, for the cost and then how much it would cost to like charge the damn thing, I guess it'd probably be pretty cheap. I guarantee you it's a cheap little thing. I would love to have it. I don't know if it's rated to go on freeways, because in Korea they have ratings for freeways. Motorcycles and like mopeds and things, they're not rated for freeways. So they're not actually allowed to drive your motorcycle on freeways. You can only take like country highways or country back roads. That's the only place you can drive them. You're not allowed on the freeway. Now some people ignore that, but that's kind of irrelevant. Yeah, I think there is the case where you can be two online, right? So Orthodoxy you can be two online. Here's the car, guys. Look at that little thing. Holy crap. Look at that. Bro, I want it. I want it for no other reason than it's small. That's a new business opening up. You know, I don't get caught up in the Discord stuff anymore, but I do see the utility. A lot of people, there is a lot of people that are converting that don't have access or easy access to a parish, and they need some supplementation in order to continue on that path. So I understand it. But I think that there are some people where their entire spiritual life becomes and orbits around two things. And there's two things that are a problem. One, I know it's really small, isn't it? It is the dinkiest little car you'll ever see. But there's two problems with it. One, if you are not able to attend the divine services, you need to be more involved than anything else with your prayer life and your fasting. That is what it means to be Orthodox. To read the read the daily homilies and script and the readings of the day. Read the readings of the day. Be in prayer and fast. If you can't even do the minimum, and then obviously go to divine services, but if you can't even do and be consistent about those minimal things, how can you be trusted to do the bigger things? You can't. Of course not. It'd be a ludicrous statement to do anything else. And too many people think, well, if I just read the saints, and sort of like you read, like a Protestant reads the scriptures. If I just read the saints or the canons or XYZ thing like a Protestant reads the scriptures, that will fulfill me. That will come into my spiritual life. And far too many people are, how do you say? Unbutton this one. Far too many people. Yeah. Vespers is a good start. Far too many people are not willing, or unwilling, I should say, to let go of this kind of scholastic mindset of this, like, do it yourself Christianity. And Orthodoxy is not about doing it yourself. You can't even do a liturgy without at least, I think it's 3 people, but it might be 2 people. Have you watched Jay's stuff? I plan on attending Vespers this weekend, still very new to this. Vespers is a good start. It is a good start. I like Jay. Yeah, you need 2 people for liturgy. So liturgy can't even be done in a vacuum. You can't even do it by yourself. And that is the center, like the liturgy is the center of the Christian life. And so prayer is also communal, right? Prayer is also communal. And I think that's the important thing to remember. We really, really need to hone in on ourselves and focus in on the church life, the life of the church, living the life of the church. And far too many people are like, well, I just read Saint XYZ the Great, and I have determined, based on my independent reading, that this is wrong and I can fix this, and we got to fix this in the Orthodox Church. It's like, bro, you're not even you've been baptized for like a week. You're in no position to be trying to correct the bishops, the other laity, or anything like that. No. Even myself, having only been baptized for about 4.5 years now, getting close to, even I am not in a position to be going around and trying to tell, well, the Orthodox Church really needs to address this. Oh my gosh, look at all this heresy going around in the church. It's like you're not you layperson, neophyte, or whatever else, are not in a position to be correcting people like that. It's a humbling experience, because when you are Protestant, particularly Protestant, you kind of have to just do it yourself. Everything is alone. It's kind of like do your own stuff. So that's important. Watched Jay for years, only recently became more interested in Orthodoxy, though. That's good. Take your time. There's no rush. Priests are helpful. Yes, and being involved, even if the worst case, even if you have a priest who is liberal, it's irrelevant. Mostly. I mean, obviously a liberal priest can cause issues, but let's just say maybe one who's maybe slightly more ecumenist, or maybe not as rad or based as maybe you normally would prefer. That priest is still giving you valid sacraments. You still are getting valid sacraments from that priest. You are still they can still absolve you of sins. They can still hear your confession. They can still give you valid Eucharist, and therefore your duty is to focus on that as a layperson. Now, if it's egregious enough, obviously take it up the chain of command, right? But that is something that you really need to remember. And a lot of people on the online sphere just don't. They don't realize that. You have lay persons going around and not just writing books about like their experiences or some of their thoughts on like issues that are kind of like removed from Orthodoxy. You have people that have the audacity to write books and say that this is what the Orthodox Church teaches on certain matters. And yeah, these are people that have not been baptized any longer than I have. And then they're going around and spreading error, confusion, and all this stuff all over the place. So my biggest problem with the online sphere is the lack, not the fact that so many laity are coming to the church that way. My problem with it is the little wetland area here. My problem with it is the lack of accountability by our bishops. Everyone who's new to something is zealous. Correct. Yes. Yes. You got to remember you're new. But also, do not let some of these people that are neophytes as well gaslight you. There are a couple of people I had to block recently because they were just insufferable. And they kind of, because, like, there are certain cradles and people that were, or people who were not cradle but came into the church because their grandparents or their extended family were Orthodox, and then they came in later at a later date. A lot of these people have a bit of a pride problem, and you can't let cradles, that is something that I would encourage cradles really avoid this pride problem, because a lot of you guys have not studied this stuff as much as some of these people that are converting. And that's not necessarily a bad or good thing. That's just to say that these people are coming in and they've had to abandon their entire tradition, their entire like theology that they grew up with, and they had to contend with all that. A lot of cradles never had to contend with that stuff, and so it's easy for a cradle to say, "Oh, catechumens depart, catechumens get out of here, get off the internet," but they're not. A lot of people don't have the same luxury that these people had. So I always tell people it's important to have a balanced and very nuanced view of these things. Beautiful little apartments here. There's a grocery store right across there. There's a little bridge that can go there, so you can go right across here from your little apartment, right across to a little grocery store. It's not a huge grocery store, but it's sizable, sizable enough. Well, I mean, you got people, and I'll name, there's certain people that I'll absolutely name, but you got certain people out here calling like bishops heretics. And don't get me wrong, I think that on some level you can be critical of bishops, but when you're just going out there and you're accusing bishops of heresy, you better have some damn good evidence. And not only damn good evidence, but you should probably be in a position. Look at that, little shops right here. A little haircut place. All of these are accessible from the behind, not just on the street level, but on this little walking path. Name the people. Well, Ridvan, and frankly his wife, both of them were far too involved immediately in the online sphere, and they needed to basically they should have quietly taken some time off and been catechized properly. Instead, what you get is two people that one becomes hyper zealous, the wife, and then gets involved with people in the online sphere way too much. She's too heavily involved online. And then you have AP, who allows the online sphere to drive him away from actually being catechized. Instead of being catechized, he kind of just starts speaking for himself, right? And kind of decides, well, Orthodoxy's got problems, I can fix it. It's a problem both ways. Name the people. Well, I mean, it's any of the people that are like Father Stephen DeYoung said recently in his Q&A with Cleave to Antiquity. Father Stephen called them out. I mean, what did he call them? He was the Latinizers, but he prefers the term crypto Protestants. Look at that little stream. Got some ducks there. I know there's some big fish in there too. There's some big boys in this. Like I said, the winters don't get cold enough to really freeze over. The water doesn't really freeze over unless you're in the mountains, or if you are in the much further north, you might get some snow that sticks. But even then, it's kind of hit or miss. So, submit to Rome. Not going to happen. Rome can't even submit to itself. It's constantly contradicting itself, constantly reforming itself. I mean, you guys literally just had the Vatican come out and basically reject co-redemptrix, co-mediatrix titles that you guys have been using for decades at this point. So I don't even know why would anyone want to submit to something so inconsistent. I thought the Pope was supposed to make that not the case, yet your popes have constantly contradicted themselves on numerous issues. So I just have no interest. Zero interest. But God bless you. I hope the best for anyone who's deciding to stay in that church. I hope you guys will come home, but good luck with that. That's all I'll say. Ridvan goes around insulting priests and nuns who tell him to stop. Yeah, I know. He's completely misunderstands what the point of Orthodoxy is. Orthodoxy is about being humbling yourself, even if you think you're right. Even if you think you're right. even if you think you're right. And then there's all that controversy that recently happened with Ridvan's wife and that guy that was like, and both of them, it's not clear if both of them are divorced, and they're like flirting publicly and stuff like that, and then they deleted the tweets and all this nonsense. It's like, ugh, you guys, I mean, seriously, act like, I will say this. A lot of the guys that I have problems with are like clearly teenagers. Like there's a couple of them that I have problems with, like Apophatic. There's this guy named Apophatic on Twitter who I had to block. And he's going around trying to correct people in theology. He's like 15 years old. Like, no joke. He's like literally 15. He's not even baptized yet. He's still a catechumen. And he's going around writing blog posts and trying to correct people about the theology of the saints. Like, there's no reason for a single person anywhere ever to ever be taking anything a 15-year-old said. Whether it's correct or not is irrelevant. There's no reason you should be listening to anyone who is 15 years old. I wasn't a dumb person when I was 15. I was actually fairly smart. I could make all these arguments, and I could argue for my positions. You shouldn't have been listening to me either at that time if I was saying the exact same things I'm saying now, whether true or not. You should not have been making those arguments. Yes. Paid shill, but that's just me. That could be the case. There could be the case that some of these people are paid to shill, and that is true. But again, it's kind of irrelevant. My entire point is it's kind of irrelevant whether or not they are paid to shill or they are shills or whatever else. It's just beautiful out today, guys. Look how beautiful it is. Just absolutely gorgeous. But long story short, don't listen to these people, guys. It's just not good for you. It's literally caustic. It's caustic to your toxic to your faith, your spiritual life. It's just not good for you. Just isn't on any level. It is very peaceful. I love walking down this little path here. There's a grocery store right here. Oh. Nothing better than listening to the water. See if we can see any fish. It's a little murky right now, so sometimes you can see one or two of them. I don't see nothing. Nothing big in there. Maybe. I didn't see any, though. It's kind of hard to see. It's very murky. And they only have, like, really ugly carp. I don't know if it's worth debating counterdox or not. It's irrelevant. Nor do I think it's really useful. It's not like you're going to convert over comments in the comments, but look at that. That tree is just gorgeous. Look at that. Those just dark reds. Such a pretty tree. I've been trying to figure out what these are. I see them all over the place. If anyone knows, I know AI is pretty good at like figuring out what this is. So if anyone takes like a screenshot of this and shares it with Grok, and you ask Grok to identify this plant, say it's in Korea, let me know what it says, because I can't really use Grok while I'm walking. Clips Dyer. Yeah, but I mean, who cares if he just... Oh, look at that. We got a close view, guys. Close view. Look at those little ducks. You always know, like, that the water is at least a little bit clean when there's ducks floating around, because they need cleaner water. They can't be swimming around in toxic water. So. Oh, no, it's cool. It's cool. I was just wondering if anyone could. I might do that later. Japanese beauty berry. You know what? I heard that those are edible and actually very tasty. Beauty berry, Japanese beauty berry. I know there's American beauty berries, and I heard American beauty berries are really tasty too. I heard they make good jam. So if that is a Japanese beauty berry, I'll have to, next year I'll have to maybe secretly harvest some. Thank you, Tactful. That is very much appreciated. Very much appreciated. But yeah, so the online sphere, here's what I'll say about like someone like Jay. Jay has express permission from his priest and has numerous priests in his purview that can directly advise him. He has numerous bishops that have come onto his channel over the years, or his Discord back in the day when he was more active on Discord. He would have bishops come on and catechize people like online and do Q&As and all this kind of stuff. He clearly has backing from clergy, okay? Clearly. Meanwhile, you have a lot of young guys, mostly guys, who are very online, who think they're a lot smarter than they are. And that's because they know how to read, at least on a very surface level. But what they don't realize is that most of the time, you can't just read things and expect it and come to some sort of arbitrary interpretation of things. It doesn't work. Jay is wrong on so many things. I don't know why anyone takes him seriously. Well, you'd have to say, what is the specific thing that Jay gets wrong? Whether you like Jay or not is irrelevant. I'm not talking about whether he kicks people or whether he's wrong on geopolitics or something like that. I'm talking about theology. Does he teach anything that the Orthodox Church condemns? No. Does Jay... considering Jay's influence, has he been synodally condemned by anybody? There's not been a single jurisdiction considering his influence that has come out with a synod that has said, or even a like a statement saying that he is condemned for his teachings. It's not been one. So it's kind of irrelevant. It's kind of irrelevant whether you like Jay or not. He has clear clergy backing. He is well regarded amongst many clergy, and so it's kind of like, again, it's kind of irrelevant whether you like Jay or not, or think his arguments are good. Your only recourse is to say, okay, what is the specific argument he makes that is faulty? And honestly, I haven't heard anybody in the many years that I've been paying attention to these things who's been able to articulate what specifically Jay is wrong about. We're not going to get bogged down in the details of church history right now, because I've seen the arguments from both sides. I've seen the best arguments from the papist side, and I've seen the best arguments from the Orthodox side, and I have not seen the papacy defended as understood in Vatican I. Haven't seen it. Have not seen the universal support for universal ordinary jurisdiction over all the churches and all the lands by the Pope. Haven't seen it. And I'd be happy for someone to try and show me where that is the case, where the Eastern Patriarchates and the Eastern Territories viewed the Pope as having authority over their jurisdictions in all matters. You won't see it. You won't find it. Furthermore, your modern popes, including Pope Leo and Pope Francis, have expressly, and we could even say, what was the one before that now? Benedict. They all have basically condemned that view. They have all basically said, you know what? Yes, the Eastern churches did not accept the authority. Richard Price, one of the foremost scholars in especially clergy, among clergy, one of the foremost scholars alive today for the Roman Catholic Church, even says that the Eastern churches did not see the Pope as having that authority. It's that simple. I mean, you can't get around that. There really, literally is no way to get around that. St. Gregory Palamas said that a theologian is one who prays, not one who studies. Yes, St. Gregory Palamas, along with Father John Romanides, who talks about this as well, and some people find him controversial. I don't personally. Okay, Japanese beauty berry. So I'm gonna collect one of these so I can. Yeah, Richard Price isn't binding, but your popes are, and your popes have literally conceded our position. The Vatican has conceded the position of the Orthodox publicly several times now, not just once, several times. They've basically conceded the Orthodox position on numerous issues, and they continue to do so. They don't view us as schismatic. They view our sacraments as valid. There's really no reason for us to submit to Rome when you guys essentially say there's no reason to. If we have all the valid sacraments and they don't view us as is in schism, you guys have been promoting two lungs theory since I was a kid, and I remember that. So two lungs theory of the church has been like a thing that the Roman Catholics have been pushing for decades now. LOL, OMG, who told you this? That's not an argument. You guys, your Pope, Leo, has come out and expressly said this. Period. End of story. There's no getting around this. You can laugh and mock and pretend that it isn't the case, but I have not seen anybody meaningfully address these arguments. Just haven't. Look at this, guys. Imagine living here. Beautiful. Great place. You can go on a walk anytime you want. It's in the middle of this is a city of 2 million, mind you. 2 million people in this city. And it's just gorgeous. No crime, very little trash. I don't see any homeless people around. Well, even... No, the Patriarch Bartholomew never said all religions are true. He said all people ultimately are under the one true God, which is true. Now, my personal opinion is the statement is too ecumenist. In fact, the MP, Patriarch Kirill, has made some, I would say, if you interpret them graciously, are just poorly worded. If you interpret them poorly, they are, at best, not great. But then you look at other statements of them, and they make it clear that only Orthodoxy is true. So these guys clearly don't view it the way you are interpreting their words. You have to take their words on the whole, not just selective quotes from them. And most of those quotes are very out of context, let's be real. So I've never seen any of those quotes when I bring a quote that somebody brings of Patriarch Kirill to my bishop and say, is that a correct translation? Because we've got to remember, they're translating it into English from Russian. And he says, no, that's not an appropriate interpretation, nor are they even including all the context. My bishop is under the MP. And he explains to me, every time these controversies arise, he explains it to me, and I go, oh, okay, cool, settled then. But even still, my bishop always reminds me, the patriarchs can get things wrong. They are not binding to the church. The synods are. The synods are what are binding to the church. Who cares about appointments? Even if that were the case, even if the Bishop of Rome came in to appoint somebody, it still has to be two bishops. The canons are clear. One bishop does not have the authority to canonize, to lay on hands and pass apostolic authority to anyone. The Pope himself does not have that singular authority. It takes two bishops. Two. Period. End of story. If the Bishop of Rome had the authority to pass on apostolic succession, then he could give the authority to bishops in the early church by himself, but that's not the case. The canons make it clear. And I don't see many people make this argument, but the canons are clear. You need two people to lay on hands. Well, why does it take two people if we have the Pope who can just kind of proclaim people apostolic? Doesn't work that way, brother. Sorry. You keep on saying people are lying, but I haven't seen you address any of the arguments that we've been making, brother. Like, with all due respect, how are we going to submit to Rome if you can't even submit to Rome yourself when they say that we have valid sacraments? Overtly, clearly. I'd like you to answer that specific contention. Will you condemn your brother for lying about the Acts? No, because I'm not familiar with the specific details that you guys are discussing right now, first. Second, even if it is the case, it could just be a disagreement of interpretation. And then the question comes down to, well, who's interpreting these Acts correctly? Because history is not as clear-cut as people like to make it out to be. So I'm not going to condemn somebody when I don't know all the details. It's ridiculous. You don't need to bring up all the little details of popes being literally ecumenical councils being decided out of communion with popes and all these other examples. You don't need to bring up any of those. The modern Roman Catholic Church is enough to debunk the entire system. It's that simple. The modern Roman Catholic Church is enough to debunk the entire system. Period. End of story. All right, guys, we got to the end of the walking path. Vatican II and the new stuff, you are correct. Yeah, I mean, you don't even need to, I hate, don't get me wrong, it's interesting on some level to get bogged down in the details of the early church, but all you have to do for the early church is show that it's not clear cut, and then at that point, if it's not clear cut and there isn't one specific person that has a clear win from the early church standpoint, which the papists have their interpretation of certain historical events, and then we have ours. And I've assessed both of them, and I've found the papists don't have the preponderance of evidence to support their claims. So then at this point, well, Jay, you can say they're low tier. You still haven't told us which argument from Jay is low tier. You just kind of said it. Beautiful, beautiful. Look at this, guys. Little shopping center area right at the end of this walking path. Sent a gift. I don't know what a gift is, but thank you for the clutch. I turned on gifts, and I was like, I don't know what gifts are, but I'm going to turn them on. And so I turned them on in my creator studio. Apparently there's something, but I'm not 100% sure what they are. Why waste time being so contentious? Even your own pope wouldn't bother arguing with their own popes don't. Again, your truth, with all due respect, brother, you haven't pointed out any specific argument that Jay is low tier, so you haven't told me which argument of Jay's is low tier. You haven't said which of his arguments are wrong or faulty or unorthodox. And then the third thing that you haven't done is you haven't addressed the argument that I've been making, which is, why should we care what your interpretation of these early church acts are when it's very clear that your modern Roman Catholic Church is not consistent with the early church and is not consistent with even Vatican I or post-Great Schism Roman Catholicism. There's no consistency in your church. Your popes used to say that Orthodox were condemned heretics that are out of communion with the Pope and therefore basically going to be damned. And now your church says that we have valid sacraments, that we are part of the church. If we have valid sacraments, we cannot be. If we're not a true church, we can't have valid sacraments. It's that simple. Very simple. People hate them because, yeah, I mean, I think that's mostly the truth. I think the broad truth is look at those little cafes there. Just a little cafe. Beautiful. It's cute. I think the reason people don't like Jay is, one, he can be contentious, and some people don't like that style of debating, discussing, and things like that. So he is contentious, but I think ultimately what they don't like is that he's effective. He's clearly effective. Orthodoxy has seen a massive movement of not just young men. Believe it or not, 40% of converts, based on a recent study from internal church polling done by Orthodox History and some Orthodox institutions, about 40% are women too. 40% of converts are women. So I would say that it's about 60%, 40%. But that's the fact of the matter is we're seeing a huge movement. And people rather than argue the merits of the positions, the merits of the arguments, are sitting here and not actually addressing why people are converting. And this is why they can't stop the flow of people out of their churches, out of their institutions. Because they can't give reasonable answers that aren't just, oh, you're just a Jay Dyer sycophant. Oh, Jay's got low-tier arguments. Well, if he has low-tier arguments, why are so many people converting? Here's another tree that I'm not sure what it is. If anyone wants to look that up. I'm not sure what it is. It's kind of a firm berry. Squeeze it. It doesn't really pop. So there's really no... It's got some sort of pulp in it. Interesting. I've never seen I've never seen a berry or a fruiting tree like that before. Believe it or not, guys, I'm a big nerd when it comes to plant life and a big nerd about birds. I don't know why, but growing up, I used to do bird watching with my grandfather, and he used to teach me about all the berries that the birds eat and stuff like that in Minnesota. So I guess that's probably why. But I've always been interested in fruit-bearing trees and fruit-bearing plants and things of that nature. I wonder if beauty berries are edible for tortoises. Glory to God. I've been attending a liturgy with my wife and kids. A true conversion has taken place. I've repented of my Calvinist dogma. Good for you. You know, it's hard. I come from a Reformed background. It is not easy. It is not easy at all. But it's definitely worth it. I'm going to take some of these beauty... Someone look up if beauty berries are edible by tortoises. These? Wait, these? These are beauty berries, and they look like beauty berries to me. You said the Japanese variety, but I think you're talking about the other one. Those are Korean bush honeysuckle. No, they didn't, Truth. You're just asserting your claims now. And it's actually starting to get mildly irritating. I'm tolerating you, and I haven't told the mods to block you. because I think it's entertaining and it gives us something to talk about. But you're just asserting it. Your own scholars, your own popes do not think that way. Your own scholars and own popes do not think that way. And even if that were true, there's no reason for us to submit to you because we have valid sacraments. You still haven't addressed that. So, yeah, I grew up Reformed background, so I know how difficult it is to get over some of that, some of those issues, like you were saying, PSA, Augustinian original sin, justification by faith alone, the tulip, tulip total depravity, things like that. Because what people don't realize is that those things individually could have some truthful aspects to it. There can be some truth in penal language. There could be truth in substitutionary language. The core problem is, can eat the first berries, small amounts, with no issues. I'm going to, well, actually, if I just do this, can they eat the leaves? Have some dinner on the Simons family from Texas. Yeah, I gotta figure out how to withdraw the money on this thing. Because I got money actually now from the YouTubes, and I haven't figured out how I withdraw it. I know that there's a way to do it, I just haven't done it yet. But thank you very much. And I will say this, if you are in Texas, and as I said, if you anybody who brings any business or brings any clients to us, we do give commission. So if you we're happy to help anyone who is Orthodox. But God bless you, brother. It's great, and I'm glad that you're coming home. I don't know what part of Texas you're in, but there's a lot of great clergy in Texas. Ignacio? No leaves or stems. Got it. I was gonna look it up myself when I get home, anyways. But it's good to know because I can always come back to here when they're during their peak season, and come grab some. I heard they make great jams, beauty berries. So great jams. Very interesting. You know what's funny is that legally it's kind of a weird it's a weird thing that's not really expressed in the law, because there are certain plants that are just considered like you don't have to have any permission to pick them because they're on public property. But there's certain states in the United States you can harvest public areas, you can harvest weeds and other things like that with no issues. But some states have limits and caps, you're not supposed to take more than 10%. You're not supposed to take more than 10%. So, which is very biblical. These are great. They just fall right off, guys. They don't burst all over your hands, nothing like that. People are gonna, luckily there's no one passing by me, because Koreans, they're probably not used to people just randomly like harvesting berries from the side of the street. But they're so we've been attending St. Sava, OCA, Diocese of the South. Okay. Yeah, OCA, you know, I've heard some OCA parishes and priests are meh, but most of the time I hear good things about OCA. They're also very convert heavy and very convert oriented for obvious reasons. So is Antioch, and to a degree, a lot of ROCOR parishes as well. The Serbians, I've heard, are fantastic also. I've heard great things about the Serbian diocese in America. Wow, all of these beauty berries, man, they just fall right off. That's awesome. We'll take one more. Okay. Off we go. Look at that, guys. I got that many berries from that, and it's not even like the season that those, you can tell those berries are like the last of the crop that didn't like fall off, like it was those hardy ones that were maybe late bloomers. I got a good amount there. I'm gonna, like, if it was peak season, that one, those 4 bushes that are right there, there's 4 bushes on one side, 4 on the other side. Those 4 bushes would have been enough to get me a couple jars of jam. This is why you guys have to get tortoises. It gives you an excuse to harvest. By the way, dandelion tea, so good for you. Dandelion leaves in your salads, dandelion root, dandelion flower, like, they all make great teas, and like, they're very healthy and really good to put in salads. So good. You guys should be doing that. Hi, brother. Going to pick my daughter. Just wanted to confirm if you're still willing to have a dialogue or on intercession or the saints with me and my friend. Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, you just have to, you know, just comment in one of my videos, and I'll try and get back to you. Or you can reach out to me on X. I think my X is in my bio. If it's not, I'll have to fix that. But yeah, just reach out to me and just like tell me some times that work for you, and I'll try and find if there's any times that work for me. It's just kind of like inconsistent for me because I live in Korea, so oftentimes it's difficult to schedule things with people, but I'm totally willing, particularly at nighttime, because I can stay up late on a night just to do a talk and stuff like that. So oh yeah, no problem, brother. I still see it. Yeah, Silver Ray, he didn't mean to do that. So the mod didn't mean to do that. It's not a big deal. So I can't fix it right now. I don't know how to fix it on my phone, on the phone side of things. It's okay. I saw the message, so it's not a big deal. But yeah, just reach out to me. I have no problem with that at all. Yeah, if it's late night for me, typically it's early morning or it's morning time for people in the States, of various degrees of morning. So if you're on the East Coast, it's probably like late in the afternoon morning. And if you're on the Pacific side, it's probably very early in the morning. It's like 7, 9 o'clock for a reasonable time for me to be up, right? I don't want to be up till like 3 o'clock in the morning, which I have done on occasion. It's not fun when you get my age. You hit 30, like you hit 25, and then you hit 28, and you're like, I can still do this occasionally, but I'm tired. And you hit 30, and you're like, you just have like zero desire to do it anymore. You're like, why am I staying up this late? Why am I doing this to myself? Thanks, and God bless. Yeah, no problem, Trevor. Hey, if you ever need anything, you let me know, okay? I'll do my best to answer any questions or anything like that. I'm very understanding of the difficulties that come with that stuff. But if you and your family are being blessed by that, glory to God. Glory to God. Okay. Oh my gosh. Remind me never to go outside when I've just showered, because my hair is just like, it just doesn't want to stay anywhere. It's okay. I'm not the end of the world. It just makes it look like I'm a crazy man. It's like, what is this crazy man talking about? Unfortunately, I always have to work. I always have night owl DNA. I'm blaming it on my dad. I'm actually not a night owl. I can stay up, but I just choose not to typically. Like 11, 12 o'clock is about the latest I'll stay up nowadays. But I am a morning person, and I've always been. I wake up at like 6:30, 7 o'clock without fail every day. And I've always been that way to a degree. But after my military stint, it like set it in stone. I can wake up at any time. I can sleep anywhere and wake up at any time. Like, someone tells me, like, I remember when I was in the Air Force, they're like, Senior Airman Blazing, we gotta crash for the night in like a chair because like sitting upright in a chair because you're gonna be the SMT. And an SMT is shelter management team. So during like wartime, that would be my additional duty, even though my primary duty wouldn't require me to do that at all. But additional duty in case there was like ever something where I had to like supplement for some reason. And so I was trained as shelter management team, and I ended up being the shelter management team lead. And I remember there would be hours upon hours where you sit there in the shelter area, because the only reason you go to the shelter area or the secured area is to let people in or out, but also to also when there's a change of shift. And so I remember when we do exercises, I'd be sitting there and I would just like fall asleep in my chair, just passed out with a gas mask on. And I'd just be like sleeping. And the thing with those gas masks, you can't tell if someone's awake or not. It's like impossible. The only way you would tell if someone's awake is if they're moving around. Yeah, my time in the Air Force was mixed. I had a mixed experience. I wouldn't advocate for anyone to join just because all it takes is one for a new Democrat administration to come in to make it hell on earth again, which it was hell on earth during Biden. And luckily I was not, I left the military before Biden took over and mandated the shots for everybody. Because it was not under Trump, the vaccine, even though he advocated for it and he was like kind of pro-vaccine on some level, or like at least pro warp speed, he still allowed people to like voluntarily like just decline to take it. When Biden got in, he forced everyone to he forced everybody to take it, and that was brutal. The jibby jab. And I just remember at the time going, I hate everything about this. This sucks. And luckily I was a contractor at the time. I was a contractor for the DOD. And they came up to me, military liaison people, and they said, Mr. Blazing, we don't have anything on records for you taking the jibby jab. And I was like, I don't want to take the jibby jab. And they're like, well, but it's free. It's free. The military's paying for it, even for contractors. Like, yep, I'm not taking it. They're like, well, we'll have to discuss this with our commander. Commander calls me into his office. Now, mind you, I was still a fresh contractor. I'm very new. So I was just not long ago, I was a airman, right? And so going to the commander's office, I was nervous because I'm like, oh, I'm an airman. And then I thought to myself, I'm like, but I'm not an airman. I'm a Mr. now. I'm a Mr. People, it's not a secret. People can find out. My last name is Blazing. So I'm like, I'm a Mr. Blazing now. I don't need to be scared of these dorks anymore. These liberal commanders and stuff like that. Oh, they absolutely did. They did it all the time. So he calls me into his office, and I'm just sitting there going, yeah, I just don't want to take it. And he's like, but you have to. I'm like, there's nothing mandating contractors to taking it. I mean, for military, you can mandate. But for me, you don't have to. And you have no authority to. And he said, well, I'm going to have to bring this up to your corporate bosses. So my corporate bosses said, hey, it's company policy, you got to take it. And I said, no, I don't, not legally. I said, if you wanna try and force me to take this, I'm going to sue you for wrongful termination. And they didn't like that. They were pissed about that. But I told them straight up, I'm like, you can't fire me for any other reason because I have good reviews. Literally just came out with the recent corporate reviews and stuff like that. I was well regarded by my my supervisor. I got a bunch of awards from the military just not too long ago for my time as a contractor. Said I know my worth. And they said, well, we really just don't think that you need to be in a position like that. We need you to get this. They said, so you have to give us another reason. I'm like, okay, if you guys I didn't want to fight it. So I was like, all right, fine. So I went to my bishop. I said, Metropolitan Theophan, I really need a letter. I need a letter that you can sign. Here's a letter that I printed out. It was from Orthodox Reflections at the time. It was a little letter that was basically a religious exemption. And I got the religious exemption and a letter from my bishop in Korean, stamped and signed with his formal thing saying that that Mr. Blazing does not need to take the jibby jab because it contains aborted fetal cell in it, and therefore it's a religious, it was like a religious excuse. We're missing so much Orthodox material not translated to English, but I bet it's much worse for it is. Like my bishop, he spends a lot of time just translating Russian saints and Russian material into Korean. His English is, high school level. He can speak high school and understand high school level English, which isn't bad. And by the way, that's better than most Americans, frankly. But he's not like on a theological level, so it's very slow to get even English stuff. But there's so much Russian saint material and like Russian translated stuff from Greek that he does a good job. So we're slowly ramping it up. It's slow and steady, but it's making progress. I'm also in Texas as well. So awesome. That's awesome. But yeah, if you guys ever get pressured by any of that nonsense again, all you have to do is just tell them I have a religious exemption. And if they try and fire you soon afterwards, just make sure you have all of the emails, all of the corporate memos, and all that stuff, and just bring it to a lawyer right away. And you just tell them I'm going to a lawyer. I was like, if they bring you into your office and they say we're going to let you go because of XYZ, make sure you're recording the meeting as well. And you just go and say, especially if you're in a state that is one-party consent state, and you record everything you can, and you just go straight to the lawyers, because that's the only way you win nowadays. I was told Korean Bible only NIV translation? No, we have like the Russian translation of the Bible into Korean. So it's like, but yes, the NIV is the most popular. The ESV is pretty recent, but neither of those I would recommend for Orthodox. So it is a bit slow. I read my Bible is in English, obviously. We're about halfway back. La, la, la. I think it's like 70, like 78. I think it's because they number some of the books differently, like kingdoms. First, second, third, fourth kingdoms, and then they do. I think they count the Maccabees slightly different, but it's still the same amount of material. It's just I think the way they count. I think the way they count the Maccabees is slightly different. So, but I'd have to double check because I don't know for sure. Okay, we're gonna go through this area, guys. So yeah, it's been but yeah, online orthodoxy, I've never had a major issue with it. I just think that there's certain actors that you just have to immediately. I mean, the basic question you ask your people is, this is how I always say it. If the person is not willing to say which bishop they fall under, they're probably not somebody you should trust theologically. It's like, you probably should not trust who they are, because then you can just say, hey, I heard someone from your diocese claim that this is what the Orthodox Church believes. Can you confirm this? And their bishop can basically email you back and tell you, no, who is claiming to speak on authority of our church or our diocese or says that we teach this? And they would be smacked down in 5 seconds. This is why none of those crypto Protestant dorks are actually willing to say who their bishop is, because they know their bishop would basically smack down this stuff. And then they would know, oh, someone's going to send all these screenshots of my nonsense to the bishop. So that's the first problem. So the second problem is that because they're anonymous, there's no verifying if they're even Orthodox. For all we know, all of those different accounts are all like Joshua scooping, sitting there and like coping and seething about Orthodoxy still. I mean, the guy still does it years later. He can't get over it. The PSA Ortho Online are annoying as hell. Yeah, that's why I just call them crypto Protestants. Because that is what they are. They're just crypto Protestant. Because if they actually believe what the Orthodox Church believes, they wouldn't be constantly calling bishops heretics for holding to basic Orthodox theology. Joshua pooping, so true. I mean, that guy knows less about Orthodoxy than most catechumens. That's like, and he was a priest. That should tell you all you need to know about him. That should tell you all you need to know about him. Jada are funny, but sometimes bad faith in call-ins. But I guess it's more blood sport. Jay just has low patience for people that he perceives as being not good faith interlocutors. So, you got to remember, he's been doing this for years. He kind of can get he's not always right about how he handles the situations, but he also has a sort of sixth sense, for lack of a better term. He has a kind of a sixth sense about these things. Yes, and he's heard these arguments a million times. He has a sixth sense. He kind of understands when somebody's being bad faith, when somebody is being good faith, when somebody is being XYZ, right? He's heard it all, for lack of a better term. And so if he's heard it all, he can spot it from a mile away. So if he's perceived as being impatient, that could be true to an extent, but it's also not a formal debate. You got to look up his formal debates with like atheists, like Dr. Malpass, for example. Jay was perfectly cordial and nice and respectful to Dr. Malpass, but he still strongly disagreed with him, and he performed very well. I mean, Dr. Malpass didn't even know how to respond to half the stuff that he was saying. He just kind of was like, well, that doesn't seem to be the case, right? And like, Dr. Malpass was embarrassing in that debate, but that's kind of neither here nor there. The point is that Yeah, he is. And again, he like no one. I don't think anyone would. No one would accuse Jay of being the most patient person in the world. But he's also almost 50. He doesn't really like. He's 46 years old, 45, 46 years old. A lot of people that age just don't have the patience to deal with like what they perceive as childishness. Whether or not it is or is not childish is irrelevant. They just don't perceive it that way, and people got to remember that. He's not a millennial. Technically, he's like the youngest. Well, he might be a millennial. I know J.D. Vance is, but I don't think 46 is a millennial. I think that is a very young Xer. Technically, he's a very young Xer. So, I mean, he was like 17. He was like 15 years old when I was born. So, I mean, it's like we got to remember that, guys. 14. He would have been 14. Do you know which council I might be talking about? I think there's a council Jay mentioned that condemns PSA precepts. I don't remember which one. Council Blackernay pretty much comes out and does that. But there's a couple different ones. I think it's the Blackernay. There's a specific canon in there that basically expressly condemns the Augustinian original sin interpretation and the PSA interpretation of those things from a Protestant perspective. It basically comes right out and says, yeah, no, that's not what we believe. Pretty overtly says it. So I think that's what you're talking about. I think it's Blackernay. But honestly, most of those things were condemned in earlier councils, just not explicitly, more implicitly, because those weren't major heresies at the time of the early church. I shouldn't have worn the jacket, guys. I'm sweating like a mother. I regret it immediately. Anyone who was here from the very beginning, they know. I even talked about it. I said, oh, it's a little warm out, but I think it's still a good idea to bring the jacket. But I was kind of second guessing myself because I'm like, it's pretty warm out. No, shouldn't have done it. Should have taken off the jacket. I mean, even Craig Truglia, who used to be somebody who I would say, at least on some level, argued for Augustinian original sin and PSA. He even has basically since said that the article that they constantly share from his website, like the Latinizers do, the article they constantly share from his website, he has since repudiated and says he no longer holds to that interpretation of those things. He says he said I read St. Maximus the Confessor and I realized that the interpretation was not an accurate summation of that position. I have a question. I know the Orthodox Church rejects the RC dogma like Immaculate Conception, but is it possible for a layperson to privately hold this theological opinion? No. And I'll explain why. Because the Immaculate Conception from the Orthodox paradigm is just not even necessary. So why would it be acceptable to hold something that is not even necessary, that isn't expressly held by the early church, right? So the Immaculate Conception is only necessary because the Roman Catholic Church has to find a reason how Mary can be a perfect vessel for Christ, but maintain her sinlessness, because their conception of original sin at the time when Immaculate Conception was conceived. Nowadays they hold to the Orthodox position on sin more, like they're closer to the Orthodox position now, but previously they were not. And so, yeah, it's directly tied with inherited guilt, because they had to have a reason why she wouldn't have had an original sin or inherited guilt. For us, it's not even a problem. So I would say no, it's not possible. I mean, again, there's all sorts of people that hold to errors in private that they're not even aware are errors, but it's when you're consciously holding to a position and refuse correction is when it becomes heresy, right? Someone just being wrong about something or mistaken about something is not enough to condemn them, right? So keep that in mind. Good evening, California. With the increase of interest in Christianity in all forms, there is a major issue with young guys with too much zeal. Could be weaponized to burn the movement. You know, I wouldn't be too worried about that. There's like in any movement in history, any like major like profound thing that's happening, there's going to be zealous people that are really, really on board with it. And it just takes time for them to direct the zeal in a healthy way. And then sometimes it's tempered into temperance. Zeal, if directed properly by a good spiritual father, by a good priest, will be tempered into temperance and maturity. After the first like 4 or 5 years. I was extremely zealous, and I would say that I'm still am to a degree. I tend to like not be like a 21-year-old when it comes to my zeal. There's a difference between immature zeal and somebody who's just converted, who's like more of a mature Christian. Those people tend to handle it in a very different way, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's what I would say about that. I was just curious, since I heard someone try to make the argument in a live stream I watched once. Yeah, I don't know if they were Orthodox. I don't know why anyone would even argue for the Immaculate Conception, unless it was, again, some dummy Latinizer who thinks that the only thing that's really different between us and Rome is the Pope, right? And those people are ridiculous. So, seen a few videos, great content, very understandable for my not so sharpened mind. Well, I try and keep the videos, like, I just express them the best way that I've understood my own catechism, right? So when someone asks a question or if there's an argument, I'm just expressing what's been taught to me. And I had very good catechists who knew exactly how to teach me properly, how to explain things. And so a lot of the things that I'm explaining are just things that were explained to me in a very good way. And I guess the reason I'm able to defend those positions is because I have a fairly good ability of distilling information into something that makes sense. This is partly because of the way my job operates. When I was a contractor and in the Air Force, my job was to talk to generals and explain highly technical like issues from an IT perspective into layman's terms, into like really basic language, and distill it very simply and in very short order to generals who most of the time didn't even know how a mouse functions. To be very clear, like love the video on monarchy. Is there books that you'd recommend on the subject? Yeah, but nothing off the top of my head. I would say if you study the Byzantine Empire and the history around that, that's a really excellent place to start. I would also say a good one to start with is read some of the lives of the early Christian emperors. And I think you'd get a good understanding of like the basic precepts of monarchy. There's also a couple great historians I would recommend as well. I'll have to look up their video series that they did. There's this historian who's written a couple books on monarchy, and he does a great job distilling the information. And a lot of his arguments are things that I've taken and adapted to my Orthodox paradigm. So, yeah, I'll have to find it, but I'll try and link that information. Look at the ducks. They're all on the rocks, sitting there sleeping. On Original Sin thing, you were mentioning like the works of that one EO guy on Twitter who wrote a book on the Augustinian view of sin. Yeah, it was what's his name? Brother Augustine. I used to be actually buddies with him until he kind of went off the deep end. And he went off the deep end. People don't know this because, again, he doesn't publicly say this. But he used to be part of the patristic faith board. So a lot of people don't realize that. He used to be a part of the patristic faith board and or contributor. He used to be a contributor. He used to be a contributor on the patristic faith website, and which is ran by Father Deacon Ananias and a couple other clergy. And some of the contributors include Father John Whiteford, Father Turbo Qualls, and others. And Father Joseph Copeland, I think, as well. And they unanimously voted to kick him off as a contributor and got rid of all of his articles because he refused correction. He kept on making like errors about like original sin. I can't remember the specific errors that got him kicked off, but he kept on making errors similar to his word concept fallacies on original sin in other areas. And he was kicked off. He was kicked off. And there's a reason for that, because he refused correction by priests, by clergy. You know, it wasn't like Jay had a hissy, like Jay Dyer had a hissy fit, and that's why he got kicked off. No, it was Jay was actually did multiple streams with Brother Augustine prior to him kind of imploding, and there were some other like personal issues too that they just eventually said that he frankly they should have never have given him the platform that he had. I mean, the only reason he was as big as he was is because he allegedly wrote a mediocre book about the Freemasons. And he's like, this is the insider scoop of the Freemasons, but it's all information that you could have known by just doing basic research. So it wasn't like really an insider scoop. It wasn't like some high tier, like it wasn't in some immensely high tier Mason who was like giving the inside scoop of the secrets of the secret. And we all know Masonry is like a ridiculous, it's just ridiculous, frankly. And so he wasn't giving the inside scoop, and he wrote a semi-popular book on the Masons and their lies, and then converted to Christianity, obviously, and that gave him a lot of popularity for a period of time. And eventually, what ended up happening was him not even being a long-term baptized Christian at the time. He was baptized just about a year prior to me, so he's only been baptized not even a year, a few, like maybe 8 months prior to myself, and he's going around teaching people. Yeah, that's just not a good idea. It's just, and at the time he was only baptized for a few years at best, so it's like, just it was not a good situation altogether, all around. It was just never going to be a good situation. So, tired of Sergianism and politics. Yeah, I mean, politics are tiring. This is part of the reason why I live here. Part of the reason I like living in Korea is that I can like unplug from politics whenever I want. Whenever I want. I can just leave my house and I never have to think about any politics. So, yeah, the Koreans are weird that way. But the thing about Koreans is that ultimately, the liberals and the conservatives in their politics, and I'm not saying all of them, some of them are radical, but a lot of them are like centrist. So there's really not as big of a divide, no matter who's in charge, in terms of domestic policy. Most of the division in Korean politics is how they orient themselves towards North Korea and China. That's really where it is. Respect Kindness is correct about what he said. St. Augustine, you can love St. Augustine. St. Augustine is a fantastic saint, and he has a lot of great things to offer, especially in terms of piety and spiritual life. But he was not made a saint in the Orthodox understanding of a saint because of his like theological like paradigm. Some things he was and some things he wasn't. So some things he got right theologically and some things he wasn't. But that's why he wasn't made a saint expressly for his we have saints that are expressly considered pillars of orthodoxy. I think there's 9. If I remember. And you can look them up. The Cappadocians, St. John Damascus, St. John Chrysostom, St. Gregory Palamas, and then there's 3 in the early church and 3 in the Cappadocian era, I think. But there's basically 9 if memory serves. I could be wrong. Someone can correct me, but I think there's 9. Those ones are considered essentially the pillar. St. Photius, thank you. They are essentially the pillars of the Orthodox faith. They are considered pillars. And so they're the ones that we look to for theology mostly. Now, that doesn't mean that even they didn't get things right or that they got things wrong or anything like that. It just means that the foundations of orthodoxy are there. That's where they're at. St. Mark of Ephesus, yep, there's another one, I believe. I think it's also, I want to say Maximus the Confessor is one, but again, there's 9, I believe. So the Cappadocians, which is 3, the Cappadocians, St. John Damascus, St. John Chrysostom, St. Gregory Palamas, and then there's got to be 3 more after that. Mark of Ephesus, St. Photius, and probably one other. I just can't remember now. But basically, that's all you need to know. There does seem to be like there was a definite change of nature. Well, no, of course. No one is saying that our nature, like, that concupiscence doesn't exist. Like, we believe in concupiscence. We just don't believe in inherited guilt. Like there was our nature's, like, our nous was darkened. We have a darkened nous. I hate to say this, but you could probably look it up on AI and it would probably give you a list, because I'm sure that it would be able to find some of the websites that list them. But the point is that the point that I'm trying to make is that, like, you know, people confuse that yes, we do have a nature that's been twisted in a sense. But our nature is ultimately given to us by God, and just because it's been twisted doesn't mean by our own actions, and just because our nous has been darkened by our own actions, doesn't mean that our nature is inherently sinful, which is the kind of Calvinistic understanding that our natures have been fundamentally twisted and changed, right? And we just don't believe that. Bro mods Thomas Aquinas, so true. But frankly, Thomas Aquinas wasn't even very impressed with his own theology towards the end of his life. He basically said that everything he had written was basically worthless. I mean, and St. Augustine, towards the end of his life, even wrote an entire book called Retractions, where he just like retracts things he was wrong on. And he says, "Yeah, I was wrong about this. Yeah, I was wrong about this." Because people forget, St. Augustine was he was kind of, how do you say? He was like one of those girls that likes. I'm not calling him a girl. I'm just saying he's like one of those girls that likes to write about everything that happens in their day-to-day life and everything they think about in a diary. He just wrote so much, and he just kept on writing, right? And I don't know if St. Augustine really does that, but yeah, I mean, there is some truth to that. But the point is that there's some truth to that. But really, the point is he wrote so much that he was prone to get things wrong because all of his thoughts went onto paper. Now, does that mean that every single one of those thoughts that he wrote down, he necessarily taught publicly? Got freaking gnats. Gnats flying in my face. Does that mean that everything that he wrote down, he was teaching publicly and like saying was the truth? No, a lot of his stuff was speculative, and that's one thing people need to remember too. When you're reading some of his writings, a lot of it is just him speculating, and he didn't even intend for many of these letters and things like that he was speculating or debating things on to even be publicly consumed, right? We got to remember that too, that a lot of these things he was like talking back and forth with other people, other contemporaries of his, and he wasn't really intending for them to be publicly like spread around. Like, people need to remember that. You got to remember the context in which the writings were spread and the reason the writings were, yeah, he definitely did not. Yeah, well, Romans 5:12 is, I mean, pretty clear. No one denies that. I think, again, people mix up what we mean by, like, we still have concupiscence. And I mean, that's pretty clear. Here's another one, guys. Here's another one. I can't figure out what this is. It looks like a crabapple tree. Pretty sure it's a crabapple tree. I don't know if you guys have crab apples where you grow up, but they're like little mini apples. Little mini apples, and they are fantastic. They have a little sour taste to them. I don't eat these because I haven't confirmed if they're crab apples or if they're some poisonous berry that I'm not like confident on. But crab apples are just great eating. Great eating. And here is this tree again. I really got to figure out if these are even edible. Someone said this was like a Korean. Someone said that these are Korean, some sort of Korean berry. It has like a pulpy inside. And I'm going to grab some because I would like to give them to the tortoises if they're edible for tortoises. So, they're still good. They're ripe. They're not squishy. So they must be a late bearing fruit. Late in the season, they must be a fall bearing fruit or tree. St. John Cassian is a Western saint, and he's one of like the preeminent Western saints that we adore in Orthodoxy. So, back to my shift. Happy to catch you live. God bless and keep up the great work. Hey, thanks, brother. We'll be doing the video on race here soon. I have almost all the notes done. Yeah, I have almost all the notes done, so pretty soon the race video will be out. I'm sure that one is going to just piss people off. There's going to be a lot of people that are pissed off about that one. Because I'm not going to really make any side happy, frankly. I'm not going to make any side happy when that video comes out. Patrick says, Craig turned me off to Orthodoxy as inquirer, but when I was... Yeah, and Craig has kind of moderated his views on those things, actually. He's actually come around to, I would say, pretty much our position, or Father Stephen DeYoung's position. He's pretty much come around to that. Though he sometimes will say, like, there's less differences than people like to make it out to be, which there is some truth to that as well. Father Stephen DeYoung, though, is fantastic. I mean... absolutely fantastic. I've always been scared of unknown, unstudied wild berries. Yeah, I don't eat them. I like to do research about them, and if I can figure out... I mean, this is in a public area. Like, this is a public apartment complex. They're not going to be planting, like, poisonous berries around where a bunch of people have dogs and children. You know, kids throw things in their mouth. They're not going to be planting these in the middle of apartment complexes, but I still want to know because it'd be nice to be able to harvest these since no one else does. Like no one harvests these berries. They're almost completely unharvested. I mean, they have this pulp. They have a sweet smell. So that's a good sign. Reading Father Stephen on Religion of the Apostles is excellent. He's coming out with a atonement book soon. He's coming out with an atonement book, which he says is going to put to bed all of these like an atonement book on Orthodoxy, and it's going to be the history of atonement as well. So it's going to go through all the different theories of atonement that have cropped up over time, and he's going to kind of explain their origins and why they're for some of them why they're wrong and things like that. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, all of Father Stephen's books are fantastic, all of them. I think he has one called God is a Man, or God is a God of War, or something like that, or God is. I can't even remember what the book's title is now. Religion, Father Stephen, Religion of the Apostles. Religion of the Apostles is phenomenal. It really, really is. These are really great. Let me show you guys. So I'm going to take one. I'm going to pop it. It's got like this pulp. It smells kind of like a apple, almost like an apple and like a plum. And it's kind of got like a pulpy plum for the inside. It's kind of like a plum. It's not as juicy as a plum, though. It's much harder. Like, I can't really burst it. Like, if I did this to a plum, the plum would burst everywhere, the juice going everywhere, but it smells like a plum. But yeah, I'm taking these because no one else will take them. And they're just going to fall off here in like a month. And no one is going to have touched them. And if I can eat them, I'll wash them and eat them. I don't see any reason why not to. I'm not really opposed to that kind of stuff. The book is definitely needed. Yeah, 100%. Another saint who helped me out very early in the perpetual venerating of the Saint Jerome and his writings on relics. Yeah, 100%. Saint Jerome is fantastic when it comes to that. You'll notice, guys, on my channel, I don't really touch like interpreting the writings of the Church Fathers much, and that's because, one, I think there's people that have already done it far better than anything I could ever do. And two, I just don't think it's useful for every single person to chime in their opinion about the Church Fathers. I'm not really in a position to do that. Just there's plenty of clergy that do that, right? So I'll give my opinion if someone asks, but you're not going to see me produce videos where I do like deep dives like that unless it's with another creator and we're just kind of giving our general opinion about things, or like, oh, how did you like this, or how did you like that? And I'll be like, oh, I liked it, and here's why I liked it. But you're not going to see me do any like, this is what Saint Maximus believed on X. It's like, who am I to even tell people what Saint Maximus believed about something? I'm not in it, man. Lord have mercy on me if I were to ever have the pride to do that, right? Which is why I'm very cautious about anyone who says, this is what the saints taught, and I'm just teaching what the saints taught. They taught PSA. I'll be like, what? Why would you even say that? His take on the canon was a huge L, though. I don't know if it was an L. I just think that he's working out of a paradigm where the church was not quite as formally established or widespread or even communicating to the same degree that it was now, or even less than 50 to 100 years after his death. I just feel like that he was in a very unique position. It's been there. They discovered the Dead Sea. He probably immediately retracted his position. You know, I think Saint Jerome's position was, this is the best we got, but his position was not accepted by the ecumenical councils. At the end of the day, his canon was not accepted, right? And he was humble enough to say, "Yep, that's what the councils determined this. Therefore, the councils are right?" He believed in the authority of the church. So, at the end of the day, he should be respected and honored for his ability to submit himself to the dictates of the church. Something a lot of people in modernity on the online sphere are unwilling to do. Right? So, I can't submit to the church because my readings of the saints tell me something different than what the church is saying. So therefore, they must be wrong, and I have to correct the church. Anyone who comes at you like that, anyone who has the audacity to say that, in my opinion, hasn't been catechized well or is stupid. Yep. Think I got enough, guys? That's one tree. I can't even reach half of them. I need to get one of those machines. Yeah, when you kick this tree, if the fruits were like bad already, the berries would all fall when I shake it, but they don't. So the berries, or these berries are little like plums or whatever they are, that means they're still ripe and they haven't fallen yet. I can't even reach any of these. I'm just going to go for these. Like the leaves are withering on these trees before these berries are falling, which is kind of interesting. See, that's what they should look like. They should be all wrinkled. But they're not wrinkled. They're all very full still and very hard. So they must be ripe. So as soon as I figure out what they are, I'll let you guys know. If I'm dead tomorrow, you guys will know. How did you go about choosing your patron saint? I chose my saint because I was inspired by his life. And then also, he was the kind of person I aspired to be as a Christian. My patron saint is Saint Tsar Nicholas II. And if you read his diaries and his writings to his children, he's the kind of father that I want to strive to be. So that's why I chose him, because he's the kind of person that I want to strive to be. His humility, his piety, his love for his family, that is why I chose him. So everybody should choose a saint that they feel is going to connect to them and is someone that they're going to help guide them in their spiritual walk. Yes, so true. If you can't respect Saint Tsar Nicholas II, I have no respect for you. What he did and what he endured, what his family endured, and they did so with their head held high. They did so with their head held high. All right, guys. I am done harvesting what I'm going to harvest. I'm going to see what I can find out about these little berries, and we're gonna hang up the call here. Hold on, let me do this. Korean bush honeysuckle. Winterberry. I think it's winterberry. All right, guys. God bless.